Technical difficulty. Okay, so hello again. So welcome everyone to McComas Avenue Neighborhood Greenway public meeting. My name is Angel Chang from MCDOT. I'm the project manager for this project. So tonight we're gonna talk about some of the concept improvements that we have for McComas Avenue to slow down traffic, to improve pedestrian and cyclist safety and connection for this community. So before we start, I just want to say that we will have a presentation for you all tonight. After presentation, we'll have a period of Q&A. So, whatever question you might have, I ask that you wait until the end. We'll have plenty of time to answer any of and all of your questions. And then after that, once we're done with the Q&A, if you have other questions or if you want to take some time to look at the board more closely and talk to our staff, you're more welcome to stay. We'll be here until 8:30, and the chat is open online. So for those of you who are attending virtually, you can type the questions to mcdot-ask me anything, ask me questions. So that way we can answer your question during the Q&A session also. So I think that's about it. Oh, I just want to thank you for Kensington Heights Civic Association for hosting us tonight at the clubhouse. This is really nice, and we have perfect weather for it. So what more can I ask for? Anyway, without further ado, we're gonna start the presentation tonight. So let's go. If it works. There you go. Okay. So again, we're here to talk about McComas Avenue, Neighborhood Greenway. Here's a brief outline of what we're talking about. And if you didn't pick up a presentation slide, we have them on the table over there. Or if you're online, it should be available on the project website. You can download them and go along with it as we go through the slides. So outline. So we're going to talk about project overview, a little bit about the traffic analysis that our team has done for this corridor. Most of you have received a postcard previously about community surveys, and a lot of you have filled out, gave us a very valuable input in terms of what you want to see for this corridor. So we'll share about the results, and then we'll go through the proposed improvements at each intersection, and then project timeline, and talk about like where do we go from here on. And when can you guys expect to see the shuffle go to the ground? And then finally, we'll have a period of Q&A. Again, feel free to ask any questions at the end, and I ask that you wait until the end. We'll have plenty of time. So let's go. Okay, project location. Most of you know we're here to talk about McComas Avenue. The project limit for this project of this study is from St. Paul Street to the west, all the way to Georgia Avenue. And we're gonna ignore the name change because you all know, like, I don't know why it changed name, but it will include Douglas Avenue and Wyndham Lane. So our main focus is on McComas Avenue, but again, like if you have other input or suggestions of how we can improve pedestrian safety or cyclist safety or traffic calming of any kind, feel free to share those with us, at the end, or fill out the comment form online, which I should have talked about that. So can you pull one of those? Scott, can you grab one of those for me? So for those of you who are attending, there are QR codes that are kind of share, paste around the room. You can just like pull out your phone, scan the QR code, and then you can fill out your comment form online. And for those of you who are attending virtually, the link is also on the project website. So, if everyone who, want to think about it or gather the thoughts first, feel free to go home and, click on the project website, and then you can share your comments with us. Anyway, going back to the project location, again, we're talking about McComas Avenue between St. Paul Street all the way to Georgia Avenue. Okay, so our goal for this project is to for McComas Avenue to become something that we call neighborhood greenway. And what does that mean for a street to be a neighborhood greenway? Well, we want lower motorized traffic volume and speed for the road, but also we recognize that McComas Avenue is parallel to University Boulevard, And there's a lot of valuable connectivity to the local destinations, such as, parks, school, the swim and tennis club, and obviously, reaching the major road, Georgia Avenue, University Boulevard, for all your commuting or traveling needs, right? So at this time, I'm going to pass it over to our consultant who have conducted the traffic study and who will share a little bit more about the result.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Strawn. I work for JMT. We're an engineering consultant working with the county on this project. I guess for this project, as far as traffic analysis, we did perform the vehicle, pedestrian, and bicycle counts, a speed study, and parking inventories. These are tools that we're using that will affect our design both to this point and moving forward in the future. The big takeaways here, you can see from the bicycle and pedestrian numbers, these are considerable numbers. So that's one of the reasons why we're trying to implement some of these design features to enhance the safety of pedestrians, bicyclists, make it more comfortable through the neighborhood, while also acknowledging, vehicles. We don't want to slow everyone down to 5 miles an hour, even though that might be safer. And we also want to accommodate the existing on-street parking. It was done last fall. I want to say it was October or November timeframe of last year. That would be the numbers from the pedestrians. I think that would be a 24-hour count. Yeah, I think it was October. So this is the speed study results. As you can see here, our posted speed limit is 25. What we have is our pace speed, which is the 10-mile-an-hour range that the majority of vehicles are traveling in. So we're at 20 to 29 miles an hour. We have one outlier at 18 to 27. Basically, the takeaway from this data, the speed limit is appropriate for the road usage. The majority of people are traveling at a reasonable speed for the roadway. So we're going to maintain 25 miles an hour, but there is room, given the high pedestrian counts, the bicyclists, there's some room for some traffic calming to be implemented to just enhance safety a little bit more. We do have one outlier here at over 45, so hopefully that was nobody in this room or out there online. So with that, just some high-level traffic information. If you want greater detail, we can discuss that after the meeting or after the presentation. But really the big takeaway here is lots of pedestrians, lots of bicycles. We're going to implement some things to enhance the safety and just the usefulness of the corridor. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Cameron here, and he's going to talk about the community survey results. Yes, the question was if we have data related to fatalities along the roadway. We don't have that as part of this presentation, but we can look that information up after. We're not aware of any recent fatalities on the corridor.
All right, so as Matt said, my name is Cameron McAllister. I'm with MCDOT. I worked with doing the community survey, which actually had a pretty good turnout. So we had a total of 225 responses, and the survey was taken over December 9th to January of this year. On average, we had people using the pedestrians facilities, walking or biking. For a good amount, about 86 people said several times a week, 78 about every day. Also, people were willing to bike and walk more along the corridor if there are improvements along the road. So as far as residents being in favor of the improvements, we had a pretty good rating of 4.2 out of 5. So pretty much sidewalk on both sides. That was a good one. Reduced speed limits, and then also the addition of crosswalks is what really stood out. And as far as community concerns, when it comes to parking, property impacts, accessibility, and safety, we had a pretty good standpoint where parking was not a great concern of residents. Also, the ability to access institutions such as the businesses and transit and parks on foot. That was something that was a pretty low standard with the proposed improvements, and also being concerned about how the ability to access one's residence as far as pulling out of the driveway. Residents felt pretty comfortable with that as well. Yeah, currently, so that's something that we're looking to address with the improvements to the safety. Sorry.
Thank you, Cameron. Good evening, everybody. My name is Scott Rasmussen. I work with JMT and Matt here. I'm a landscape architect and working on a project with the county as a design consultant. I'm going to speak briefly to a few of the things we have in our toolbox to develop these concepts and help to move things forward. On the slide here, you'll see the bicycle facility design toolkit. It's a Montgomery County document that we use. It has different criteria in it and examples of different things that may be implemented for traffic safety, pedestrian safety, things of that nature. You can see in some of these photos here, the top right is a neighborhood small roundabout. There's a chicane in the middle photograph and a curb extension in the third one. These are just some of random examples from different areas around the country of traffic calming elements that may be utilized in a situation like this. Not that we've used all of these on this project. After the presentation, we can be more than happy to point everything out to you and kind of go over it in more greater detail. So getting a little more specific on the particular corridor here, one of the things that always helps with pedestrian bicycle safety is making sure that there's signage and good pavement markings to alert the vehicles traveling the corridor, the presence of bicycles. So part of this project is we'll be implementing some new pavement markings. They're called sharrows, and you can see them in that bottom graphic there with the green. And what it is, it's basically we'll be putting the travel lanes, and it helps identify that bicycles may be in that lane along with vehicles, sharrow. And then of course, we'll do some signing as needed to help emphasize the fact that this is now becoming potentially a bike route and make everybody aware to that fact. So a couple of other items that we can implement here is for bicycle safety at intersections. We do a bicycle forward box basically, and what that is it's an area between the crosswalk and the intersecting street. And what that does is it gets the bicycles ahead of cars so that they're more visible when they go through the intersection to the traffic that's coming through the intersection. Kind of gives them a head start and makes everybody aware to look out, there's bicycles in the area. Curb extensions is another thing that we implement. You can see in that picture there, sometimes we incorporate landscape into that. Depending on the size and locations, we can also utilize that for green infrastructure, stormwater management, things of that nature. Yes, yeah. And what it does is by bumping it out, it helps protect parking, and it also shortens the crosswalks through the intersection. So it makes the crossing shorter for pedestrians. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. The question was, can you explain what a curb extension is? And essentially what it is it's a bump out at the intersection of the sidewalk and curb, and it works to protect on-street parking along that roadway, but it also shortens crosswalks and crossings for pedestrians through the intersections to make them a little more safer. And finally, a couple of another items that we have here are raised crosswalks and raised intersections. Raised crosswalks, they work kind of in two ways. They provide kind of a speed hump that helps to slow traffic down, so you can't just go speeding down the road. You're gonna feel it when you're driving. And then the raised intersection, when we can implement that, it takes the entire intersection and raises it to basically the height of the sidewalk. So you essentially have more or less if the curb height's 6 inches, you have a 6-inch rise at every street that intersects with it. And then you can see in the raised intersection photo in the top, this particular case, they implemented a different pavement pattern, which also helps visually for vehicles and identifying to them that this is a pedestrian space. You need to slow down and be aware of your surroundings. Yes. Yeah, the question is, at raised intersections, do you need to have what are bollards essentially to protect the pedestrians, since the roadway is at the sidewalk level? It depends on the situation. In this particular one, it's a more urban application, and you can see on the left-hand side of that photograph, it's very urban and a plaza kind of feel. So in that case, it's probably more important to have it there. In our case, we have buffers, some buffers, grass buffers with sidewalks and things of that nature. So it may or may not have to be implemented. It would require further study as the design goes along.
Okay, the next few slides here are just the concept design layouts that we've put together to this point. So we're gonna start on the west end of the project at St. Paul and work our way east to George Avenue, just to touch briefly on some of the implementation locations that we've chosen. So here at St. Paul and Farragut Avenue, we have Kensington Heights Park there to the north. So one of the proposed raised crosswalks would be there at Farragut Avenue. Like Scott was mentioning, the goal here would be to shorten the pedestrian crossing, slow the traffic down, and provide a direct, straight crosswalk there over to the park. It'd be great if we could just hold questions till the presentation's over. Thank you. So here we're at Pearson Street. This is a funky little piece of right-of-way that Pearson Street was never connected. So there's a little bump out of the road that it's technically county right-of-way. So what we're proposing here is to connect that existing trail over, close off the curb line here, and provide a standard residential driveway for this property on the corner. Then we would sign this trail connection as a bike route. And then over to the east at McComas Court is a raised intersection. Again, there's sidewalk on the east side of McComas Court there. So providing that crosswalk connection to the sidewalk that's on the south side of McComas. Next here at Hobson Street, we're proposing a curb extension again for traffic calming, extending the curb line there, potentially landscaping. We'll work through those details. Drum Avenue, I know that's a big one for a lot of people. So what we've proposed here is another raised intersection. And then also we have these proposed these solar powered LED flashing stops. I guess the idea is just to really get people's attention at this intersection, that there's a four-way stop, there's a raised intersection, there's going to be pedestrians potentially crossing. And then over here at the Kensington Healthcare Center, there's some sidewalk along the south side of the road that just needs some repair to make it ADA compliant. Paraguay Drive. Again, here we're doing some curb extensions for the same reasons as previously outlined. And then the sidewalk on either side of Paraguay comes down. The sidewalk there on the south side. So we're just adding a crossing there to get to the south side of McComas for pedestrians using that crossing. Bentley Lane, this is where the sidewalk crosses from the south side to the north side. So we have a stop condition with a raised crosswalk here to and really make sure that those pedestrians everyone has to cross here. So that's going to be a high traffic pedestrian crossing. It's a great spot for a raised crosswalk. Okay, these next couple are curb extensions, and really for the same reasons as previously outlined, it's just traffic calming, lower those distances for the pedestrian crossings. Okay, next we have sidewalk along existing Brunswick Avenue and Torrance Drive with what we're proposing is just to add a sidewalk connection there to fill in that lack of connectivity. We've got Stephen Knowles School. We're proposing a raised intersection along with some pretty sizable curb extensions there to provide just traffic calming effects at the school and also to protect the parking to the east there on Douglas Avenue. Again, here kind of extending our curb extensions along Douglas Avenue, all new pavement marking for the crosswalks. And then here we switch to, we will have a double yellow center line and the green-backed sharrows. Just basically nature of the road kind of changes there east of Stephen Knowles School. So this is existing, it has the double yellow, we'll keep that, and that's why you see the green-backed sharrows here. A sharrow, the question was, what is a sharrow? A sharrow is when a road is shared between vehicles and bicycles. It's shared and arrow, sharrow. Engineers are not creative. All right, this is our last layout here at Douglas and Wyndham. So what we have here around this sharp corner, 90-degree corner, we're existing crosswalks kind of in mid-block and around a curve. It's just an unsafe condition. So what we're proposing here is to remove those two crossings. We'll redo the sidewalk along Douglas to provide connectivity. So pedestrians will use the crosswalk at Georgia Avenue or back at St. Margaret's Way to the west. And then we're reconstructing these pedestrian ramps. And then we have what's called a bike box at Georgia Avenue. Since McComas Avenue, Wyndham Lane was a shared street, bicycles sharing the road with the vehicles. And Wyndham Lane is also a shared street to the east. We also have the bike master plan for the county, which has future bike accommodations along both Georgia and Pliers Mill to the south. So what a bike box does is similar to what Scott was talking about with the bike forward stop bar, but it's an application which applies to a signalized intersection such as this. So really what it does is it gets the bikes when they're at their most vulnerable after they've stopped and have to start up again. It gets them in a position where they're more visible, gives them a head start through the intersection. So with that, I think I'm turning it back to Angel.
Thank you, Matt. Okay. All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about timeline here. So obviously our study began in December 2022. And then we had a field visit with our project team to, make sure that we're getting the existing condition correct, which includes, some of the data collection and, topographic survey and stuff like that. So these are what we just share is technically the preliminary recommendation. And so we are collecting input from everyone. So if you can share what your thoughts on initial thoughts on these proposed improvements, that would be great. And the comment period will be open for a whole month. So until May, today is 18th, May 19th. And then from then on, we'll take those comments and go back to the drawing board, see if there's anything that we can add or if there's anything that we miss. And from then on, we'll present this project to the planning board in the form of a briefing and also get their recommendation and comments on this project. And then obviously our project team will work to refine the design a little bit. And then in around November of this year, we'll come back out and kind of share again with you what is our revised design for this project. And then final recommendation will be sometime in 2024. And then we're hoping to implement all, if not more of these in fall of 2024. So this is the current project timeline. if everything goes well. So we'll do our best and keep this schedule. So with that, here's my contact information. Again, I'm Angel Chang. I'm the project manager. A lot of these information is also available on the project website. So we encourage you to go check out the website. And if you have any questions or have any specific concerns that you want to talk about and talk to me about, there's my email address and phone number. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And if you have any specific things that you have question about, you can always contact me. So without further ado, again, if you have, we're gonna open up the floor for Q&A. If you have the time, please fill out comment form. We would love to hear from you. Any specific things that we might have missed, or any things that you like or you didn't like, or anything at all about McComas Avenue, we would love to hear. So for those of you who are virtual, you can get to the comment form via the tinyurl.com/McComasNGW, which stands for Neighborhood Greenway -comments, or you can get to it from the project website. I feel like I'm like a commercial now. Anyway, so we're gonna open up the floor for any questions. So I think there's some questions on Dan. No. We'll take the question from you. Okay, we'll skip Dan for now. Over there. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so obviously process is part of it, getting comments from various agency and obviously community, but there's another piece to this is our budget. So we're often tied down by our budget. So most of the time we only have enough money to do the design, and then we'll have to push the implementation to the next year. So that's part of the reason why.
How about now?
Oh, yes.
So again, this is our first real attempt at a hybrid virtual meeting. So I'd like to answer or ask a couple of the online questions.
Okay.
So first one is, and it's multi-part, so pay attention. And I'm looking at you, Matt.
Uh-oh. Matt, come
What
here.
was the impetus for this project? How many accidents have happened? How many cyclists have been hit? How many pedestrians have been hit?
I thought Matt was the one supposed to answer this.
Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of that information on me. We can certainly respond to that at a later time. I'm not aware of any recent fatalities along the corridor. I think the hope would be that we implement these things before that happens and prevent future fatalities. But yeah, I think I don't have that data off the top of my head, unfortunately.
So I'll recap for Matt. He's going to get back on the accident numbers, and they're not necessarily fatalities, just accidents. But the big one is the impetus. And that I think was touched on, but maybe Angel, you want to say there's a relatively high number of pedestrians and bicyclists that we want to improve the pedestrian and bicyclist experience.
Yes, and I think both from the traffic study that we conducted, obviously we have over 200 some pedestrian in a 24-hour count. That indicates that there's a huge number of pedestrian, community members and your neighbors who are just trying to walk, really, or just trying to, go to the park or try to go to the mall. And so there is a need for, traffic calming and improve pedestrian safety and cyclist safety. And that's part of the reason why we're doing this project. And, we've talked to the Kensington Heights Civil Association a couple of times, and, they've reached out to us, we've reached out to them. And when we finally get the funding, which is now to do the design, and we're excited to be able to do something to do some traffic calming here, but also hopefully improve the community in a way that would make it more walkable, bikeable, and easier for you guys to access the places that you would like to go to from this neighborhood. Oh, and then for that data, email me, and then I'll get Matt to get the data to you. Okay. All right, over there. So the question was why we're removing these crosswalk. You're saying crosswalk to improve pedestrian safety. So a lot of these curb ramps currently, obviously people use them to cross the road, right? But they're also existing kind of in a bend of the road, which is very unsafe when someone trying to go around the bend and they don't see a person who's actively crossing. So maybe what we need to do is, look for a place for a crosswalk crossing, a dedicated crosswalk crossing. And that's a very good question. And I'm glad that you brought it up. So this is why we need this, because you can bring it out and then we can go back to look at this a little bit further. But again, like the reason why we're removing it, because it's providing a false sense of security for pedestrians who think that, oh, this is a curb ramp, I can step into this and cross, when in reality, there's no good sight distance for drivers or pedestrian if there's someone trying to cross here. So thank you for the comment, and we'll look into it more and then find a dedicated space for crossing. I think we'll do like one online and one in person. Yeah.
Okay, next online question. Might it be possible to extend this project on Wyndham to Amherst and then on Sligo Creek Trail? Also on St. Paul to Pliers Mill to Rock Creek Trail. Also on St. Paul to the Kensington Railroad Station, then to Kensington Parkway to Rock Creek Trail. That would provide connectivity to bike trails.
Absolutely. If we have all the money in the world, we'll do all of those. But I'm also the project manager for the Amherst Avenue Bikeway. So that is one of the projects that we're actively working on, and we're currently at 60% design, and planning board is going to look at the project actually on May 4th. So if you're interested in that project, you're more than welcome to join that project, join that hearing online or in person. But our goal really, as part of the the overarching goal of the county, is to create a bicycle network, but also improve pedestrian safety as part of this. And so I forgot to mention this in the beginning, but this project is actually part of the Wheaton BIPA program. BIPA stands for Bicycle Pedestrian Priority Area. And so the Wheaton Central Business District is designated that, and McComas is actually on the edge of it. So that's why we're doing this. But the goal of the BIPA program in general is to improve bike ped safety, connectivity within the Wheaton CBD area. So the piece between Georgia Avenue to Amherst on Wyndham Lane will be looked at hopefully soon when funding is not as tight. But good news is, Amherst Avenue is part of that, and we're excited that that project is moving forward. So in the distant future, someone can walk all the way across and get to Amherst and get to Sligo Creek and all the other places, wonderful places that that person just, I don't know who said that, but that person just raised. But yeah, that will be our wonderful goal. Okay, over that. Okay. So the question was about the bike forward stop bar, and whether that would be a safe treatment for cyclists if a driver decide not to stop. Scott, would you like to take that or no? I mean, I can try. Well, so when a pavement marking and sign, so in the case stop sign, is implemented on the road. You know, if a police officer is present, they can. I know. So, but it's just something that we can do. And you know, the bike forward bar is more of a way to raise visibility too. Not only that, you know, indicate the space where cyclists can stop, but also part of the bar also includes a bike symbol, so that it kind of like highlighting like, you know, hey, a cyclist can be here. Maybe you should pay attention. And we hope that, you know, the more we see these treatments, the more people realize that, hey, you know, there could be a cyclist, or hey, maybe I shouldn't go so fast. Hey, maybe I should stop at stop sign. So it's more of an awareness. Hopefully in the future that people will follow it more and more. Again, it can be enforced once it's on the ground. And I don't know, Dan, if you have anything to. Oh, okay.
Give you another one. You mentioned signs. Will there be signs to caution drivers that children are playing in the area? That's a different issue than the bike concerns. And I see there wasn't a measure observing children playing or crossing along the roads.
Okay, so when we do our traffic study or pedestrian counts, did you divide it into? I don't think we divided into like that. Yeah, so it's more of a how many people is present. So we didn't break it down that far, but I think we can consider the sign for, you know, crossing or children crossing at various locations, especially in the park area where we know that, you know, kids go there. But we can look into it and see what we can do. So, okay. Oh, so many here in the back. Okay, so the question is like whether we can further lower the posted speed on this road, and you know why it wasn't considered. So based on the traffic study that we conducted, you know, most of the people is traveling near speed limit as posted right now. And so I'm not a traffic engineer, and I was hoping that a traffic engineer would be here. Unfortunately, he can't make it, but that can be a follow-up question. But in general, we want the posted speed, you know, to be close to how people are traveling, right? And so there have been some example where, you know, we decide to just change the posted speed, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that people are traveling at a lower speed, right? And so we want to make sure that, you know, what we're proposing here actually slow people down more than just a sign that tell people that they're going to slow, because you know, sign can be there. Most people might or might not pay attention to it. So we want to make sure that, you know, the treatment that we're proposing is actually slowing people down. But with that said, we can definitely consider if that's viable and whether these treatment can achieve a lower speed that can match the posted speed. So thank you for that comment.
Online, are there going to be gaps in the curb extensions for bicycles to go through? If not, the curb extensions become nothing less than bicycle entrapment fixtures.
Matt.
So the answer is no, we are not providing cut throughs through the curb extensions. The curb extensions we are proposing for this project are in the neighborhood of 2 to 4 feet on the bump outs longitudinally along the road. The width of the road is about 26 feet, gutter pan to gutter pan. So with a shared road, the bicyclists will be in the travel lane with the vehicles. This is not a protected bike lane. They will not be up against the curb line. Bikes will be allowed to use the entire lane. So the idea with all the other traffic calming going on, the raised intersections, the raised crosswalks, the curb extensions is to slow vehicles down, but bikes will have the right of way in the full travel lane as part of this road.
And I'll add that, you know, if there's any particular location where we have the room to do that, to provide space for cyclists to bike through. We'll look into it, but given the topography and how narrow the road it already is with car parks, we're not currently proposing that. Again, like we'll go back and look at it and see if there's something that we can include in the proposed improvement. So there. Okay. Oh, do you mind talking to the?
You won't have to repeat all that. I was just explaining why I'm a super user of the road. I'm a walker, a biker, and a commuter, a walking commuter, all on it. Down, if you could put up the slide down at the west end where the Pearson and McComas intersections are. And I see you have a raised intersection at McComas Court instead of at Pearson Court. And my suggestion would be Pearson Court is where kids stand at the bus stop for two separate schools, both Rockview, which is north, and Oakland Terrace, which is south. And that is where there is a lot of kids crossing and standing and waiting at the Pearson Street and not at the McComas Court. So my suggestion would be to relook at, I'm not sure why you decided McComas Court rather than Pearson, but there's lots of kids at Pearson waiting there and crossing there. And I would believe that that would be a much more important intersection for a raised intersection for you to consider. It's one of the few places where kids have to wait for bus stops for two different elementary schools at the same bus stop, going different directions. And then at the other end of the street, way up at Stephen Knowles School, where you're proposing the green bump outs there to the east. That is a very difficult intersections for buses right now as it is. Trying to stand out there and get the buses be able to turn left as they're coming out is very difficult with the cars that are parked there and the traffic and not being able to see around that corner. I am very concerned that if you put the bump outs there, personally, I think it's going to make it much more dangerous. The sight visions are difficult and the road is narrow. And if any places not to put the bump outs, my concern would be there. And that's just from my experience of standing there guiding buses most afternoons. And then just my third opinion, and I'll give it back, is as a bicyclist, I hate those green bump outs. You're swerving in and out of traffic. And based on, I think the county's done a great job of adding sidewalks all the way down. That's been a huge improvement. So we put in a couple more stop signs and a couple more road markings and some of these raised things and some of the road markings, all of that, yay. The bump outs, I am very much against as a bicyclist. They scare me to death on other roads when I use them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have online?
I'll do two online. One
Oh.
is exactly the same thing. School buses have to, at McComas and St. Margaret, school buses have to get through. You're going to cause an accident there by bumping out the curbs, completely counterproductive. So that's a second of that, but I will go on to, will the road be marked as local traffic only, or can something be done to get the road off mapping programs as a through route?
I think this question was asked before. Anyway, so the answer to that is, I'm not sure in terms of the mapping, because obviously we don't control that. As you know, Google is an open data thing. So they have their own algorithm. Unless it's signed in a certain way, which we will have to talk to our traffic division and see what are our options to see if there's something that we can do for local traffic only signage. So I'll get back to you. Oh no, there's so many. Oh, which one? Oh. So this project, we're just trying to identify where it can be done, because we know that the topography of this whole road is very difficult to have continuous sidewalk on both sides, but we can look at this. That's a good comment. Mhm, mhm. Okay.
Angel, can
Yeah.
you please repeat?
Oh, sorry. So the common was adding a sidewalk connection on the south side between St. Margaret's and Torrance Drive, and we will look into that and consider that. Back there. Yeah, and so the commons was considered lowering the posted speed to 20 miles, just to echo the gentleman over there. And then speed study. I don't know the answer.
Yeah, so the locations shown are the locations that we collected the data. The data is the data at this point. We could certainly entertain the idea of getting additional data. I think we'll note the comments that the speed.
And we brought that up at last.
Like, there's two types of people. Either you're gonna be going like sub 20, or you're gonna go like 30 plus. Like that. So between Drum and Brunswick, you're gonna have the speeders going through there. And you're gonna have either the locals going slow, like sub 20, because that's what feels safe, and people going 30 plus, riding on anybody that's not doing that, including bicyclists.
And should I just add only reason that the slowdown happened was by the road being in poor condition, and that is the reason why there's traffic count. I mean, am I wrong? Because otherwise, the rest of the street is in good condition. Everyone just speeds down there at 45. I have actually seen people go significantly faster than that.
And as you go down between Paraguay and Drum, and right before Paraguay, there's usually no cars parked on the left side. So down, basically Bentley, all the way down to Drum, there's not as many cars parked, especially on the left side of the street. And when that happens, the speed, not only are they going downhill and they don't realize how fast they're going, but they have less obstruction, so they're going to go faster. And that's the segment that really wasn't, it doesn't look like it was measured.
Yeah, we appreciate the comment. So again, like this is part of the reason why here we want to know a little bit more about your community and where you have concerns. And so what we can do is like we'll go back and see what we can do. Again, we'll have to coordinate with our traffic division on the posted speed, and we'll go from there. Ooh, in the front. Wait, what? Sorry. Would you mind repeating the question? Okay. Do you have any
Can you repeat that, Angel?
So what are some feedback that we've heard about the intersection at Drum in particular from the community so far, right? Yeah. So I haven't looked at all the comments, but I know Cameron did, right, Cameron? No, but basically we have some concern over whether people actually stop or rolling stop at that intersection, and whether people can see where there's a car coming down from Drum onto McComas, and whether they're making a left or right or go through. And so it is one of the bigger intersections that we have, and there are plenty of pavement out there. And quite frankly, I think that's the only intersection on McComas that has a full-way stop and full-way crosswalk. And so, ideally, that should be where a lot of pedestrians are, trying to get to the mall or trying to get to the park. And so we're trying to, that's part of the reason why we propose to put a race intersection there and the flashing stop sign to just really raise awareness that, hey, you need to stop and slow down here in particular, because it's such a big intersection where people can be driving, swerving, or, traveling really fast, don't have the sense of, tightness where they need to slow down. So that's what I think. Mhm.
Down from university.
Yeah, I think that's what I was going to mention, is really one of the big things about Drum is the connectivity up to University Boulevard. A lot of these other cross streets are either dead ends or just connecting to other residential. So the volume of turns there at Drum, just more conflict points, more turns, more movement, four-way stop, four-way crosswalk, like Angel mentioned.
I got one from online.
Okay.
Is some form of physically protected bike lane a possibility?
Currently, no, because we don't have the room for it, unfortunately. Okay. Over there. Okay.
I have one car, it'll be 5 years we lived here in July. I have one car that's been hit 4 times parked on the street, and most times pretty quickly. And so the good news is my car's been repaired all the way around. Looks brand spanking new at 7 years old. So it seems like maybe there's an opportunity for more data collection. And since the second part of that comment is, since it seems like it'll be about 2 years before we'd see these improvements, I think there's plenty of opportunity for more data, because it probably ties back to how this is funded. And so I haven't heard anybody say this is definitely happening, right? So that was my first comment, my first question. And the second is, if you're coming from, I can't remember where it is exactly because I'm still relatively new to the neighborhood. If you're coming off Douglas up McComas, coming from the east, there's a sign that says photo enforced, right? Doesn't ever happen. And so does Montgomery County Department of Transportation, the consultants, how do we get a little bit of police presence to show up once a month with a speed trap or something, which does exist on Pliers Mill and University all the time? So we're like the third option of people running up and down that corridor where they can go up as fast as they want. I sat out there with a Bushnell speed gun, and I'm clocking people at 50, 45, 40, because it's widens there. It's going downhill. Somebody said people don't know how fast they're going. So I don't have small kids. I have dogs, so they're like my small kids. I mean, like we heard fatalities earlier. It's just a bad place waiting to happen. So thanks for listening again. Very
Yeah.
encouraging. I'd like to see it more.
Thank you for the comments, and we'll definitely see if we can collect more data as part of this project. Oh my God. Thank you for your comment. Okay, right there.
Yeah, let's talk about South. I very much support St. Paul, and I know many of us are by here to ask anyone McComas, which is a natural. I know it's out of scope for this project, so I can't help but see that St. Paul Street has a new crosswalk. signage on St. Paul or if it's on the bubble?
Yeah. So the question is whether we can do something at St. Paul with the concern of people cutting through Paragon, right? And so we've heard it from your community many times, and so we can look into changing that crosswalk, upgrading the crosswalk to a raised crosswalk to further slow down people. Unfortunately, St. Paul is part of town and Kensington, and so we'll reach out to them and see what solutions they have and work with them. But ultimately, they have the final say in terms of how the traffic flow on St. Paul. But we will look into whether we can upgrade the sidewalk into a raised crosswalk. Oh, okay.
Hold on a second.
So I wanted to find out if that intersection, St. Paul and McComas, was part of the study, because one of the solutions that was presented as possibilities are traffic circles. And I think that spot could be a nice place for a small traffic circle, partly because like Drum, it has the problem of people coming off a university trying to race down St. Paul to like avoid the traffic later as University merges into Connecticut. And right now the sight lines as you come from McComas to St. Paul, you actually can't see around the corner to know who stopped at the stop sign over there. And while I appreciate the effort to try to mark like a bicycle presence ahead of the cars at the stop sign, if you move where they're stopping even further back, you're not going to be able to see cars in any direction. And so if you want to set the tone for entering into this community, both as you're coming down St. Paul and as you're going across McComas, something like the really tiny traffic circles would be a nice way to do that. And I know you've got a park there, you've got a lot of open space on the other side. Maybe there is enough public land that something like that could be accommodated and just set a better tone for this entrance.
Yeah, and thank you for your comments. And we can look into if that's possible. There are instances where we have implemented very, very small traffic circle, and in some cases they're not very effective because they're so small. And so we'll see if that's a possibility for this intersection, and go from there. Yes, Dan, can you give her the mic?
Thank you. Just a question that's more sort of actually not specifically on traffic, but something that should not be created as a new problem based on all these interventions. So if we have raised intersections, how are we sort of dealing with drainage issues and other things? These are impervious surfaces that we're putting down. And if we are raising it, all of this is like downhill. So there's a lot of water that comes down with climate change, more rain. And so just wondering how you are planning on, essentially ensuring that there's not flooding problems created now as a result of these raised intersections.
Yes, so that's a great question. Drainage is really the challenge with the raised crosswalks and the raised intersections. So that's really one of the reasons why some of these intersections we looked at and unfortunately had to rule out raised intersections or raised crosswalks because of that. And the remaining ones, we think we can implement it with a couple modifications to the existing drainage system. The other thing I guess I'll mention on that is the point in the design that we are right now, we're not into real in-depth drainage design. We're just kind of evaluating on a high level, would it work here at this location? Then we come to you, get your opinions. But that's definitely something that we're cognizant of and we're looking at when we're proposing some of these things. I guess the other thing I'll mention is there's a couple ways to do these raised crossings. If we need to, we can get creative with things like steel plates to get the sidewalk connections onto the raised crosswalks, raised intersections. But really, that's more of a detailed design that we haven't reached yet, but we're kind of tertiarily looking at those issues at this point, and we'll continue to do so.
Want to go one online?
Sure.
It seems the study should have included drum to university. Why wasn't that considered? There have been numerous accidents on drum and it's unsafe for kids in a neighborhood. Is there room for drum to be included?
I'll go back and look at my budget and hopefully we can do something on drum also. But currently it's not in the scope of the project, but I'll check it out. And, you know, if we can include it for the next phase, you guys will hear it. Okay, over there. Mhm. Yeah, thank you for the comment. And the comment was about drainage and rooftop runoff. So we'll definitely look into it and then making sure that, you know, whatever we propose, we're not exacerbating any of the existing drainage system. So, okay, here.
So I live on McComas Avenue, and I'm really happy to see this. But I think, you know, the pedestrian experience for most people on that we're not going, maybe we're starting on McComas, we're doing. I think the common scenarios are child within walking distance of school. So this address is part of that district. But in isolation, why would the county not creating a continuous experience?
So that's something that we consider as
Can you
any
repeat
part
that?
of the, the question was whether our project consider a continuous sidewalk to, you know, destinations such as school or metro station. Is that correct? So those we consider those things for every single project and any nearby destinations. And so we don't specifically design for one location. I mean, unless it's like we're talking about like I don't know. I don't want to, you know, mall or something like that. But again, like I kind of touched on this in the beginning. This project is part of the Wheaton BIPA program, and it's for the Wheaton CBD area. So there's kind of like a stretch in terms of like how far we can stretch this project to the south in particular. But anything to the north of McComas, I think we have opportunity to include it in this part of this project. Anything to the south might be a stretch, but that doesn't mean that we won't consider it. So if you have specific location that you have in mind or specific school that you would like to see continuous sidewalk, email me and I will send those requests to our sidewalk program who's in charge of putting in sidewalk for, you know, throughout the whole county. So if you can email me, that'd be great. Thank y'all. Okay. Over there.
Sorry, quick 2 or 3 part question. It'll be one, there have been some questions that you indicated that you or the others would have to get back to the community on. What is the mechanism? Has someone been recording these? Do we have to email them to you? And how are you going to get the responses back to us?
Yeah, so I'll answer that real quick. So yes, tonight's meeting is recorded. It will be posted on our project website, so you can feel free to go back and revisit it. If you have specific questions, I would really, really appreciate if you can email me, because I mean, you have raised a question, but I don't know your email address, so I can't really directly email the answer to you. So if you can be so kind to email me, I'll get the response back to you and to answer your questions. And if it is overall suggestion or adding, you know, such as, you know, adding a sidewalk here, we'll look at it. Again, we have another public outreach in November. And before that, we have a planning board briefing. So those are kind of touch point of, you know, for everyone in the community to see how the project is progressing, and we will like notify everyone, via email on these touch points. So
Cool, thank you. And then the other, I know that we're trying to calm traffic, increase pedestrian and biker safety. There are a number of intersections that do not have proposed crosswalks. Have you considered painting crosswalks at all of them outside of that one area where you thought it might be a safety hazard just because of the curve? And then second, on Wyndham, I've never understood why that it does have the double yellow line, like it was going to be a bigger throughput a thoroughfare, but obviously it never has been. Have you considered removing those rather than adding just the center bike sharing insignia that you were discussing, just to make it seem less of a faster driving area?
yeah, so those are more of a based on our we call it the MUTCD, which is the Uniform Traffic Control Devices. So there are specific regulation of where those are applied. I think coming off of a major road, which is Georgia Avenue, whether we're coming out of it or going towards Georgia Avenue, it is a major thoroughfare, Georgia Avenue itself. And so we can look into it. But like I said, it is something that we have to go by with the regulation that is set forth before us. So that's that. Sidewalk. So again,
Yeah, we will propose all new crosswalk pavement markings for all the locations that don't have existing crosswalks.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah. I would just suggest a couple things. One, in terms of the fact that you had sent out the survey before, I think it would perhaps another one that says specifically accidents, injuries, that kind of thing, property damage. I think that would be useful to you to really document the kind of problems that are there. Certainly from my perspective, the fastest speed is what you're showing right up there, that stretch from Brunswick at the top down around past the school and out in Wyndham. I've sat there and stared really hard at people as they're zooming down there. So that would be a place. For anybody who doesn't know, I'm Karen Cordry. I'm president of the Civic Association. We will send out another newsletter kind of email to everybody and just ask you to, I think this is being recorded, but I'll ask you to also just send comments to us. We'd like to put together a kind of compendium from KHCA as to some of our, specific suggestions along the lines of this thing. So I hope you'll be able to respond to that as well.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. So once you send it to us, we'll provide a response. And for everyone here who would like to both comment on, send comments to me and send comments to Karen's, feel free to just copy and paste. We'll read them. Anyone that hasn't talked yet?
I've got one online.
Oh, okay.
Any consideration to limiting parking to one side of the street? My husband is visually impaired and walks it every day. His only concern is not being able to see past parked, I think you mean cars, when crossing McComas.
Currently, we don't have any consideration for removing or restricting parking only one side, because we know that this road, this is a residential neighborhood where we have houses on both sides. So we recognize that there's a need for parking. But we hope that some of the curb extension will be able to highlight pedestrians who are waiting to cross, or highlight pedestrians who are trying to see if it is safe to cross, and for drivers to see where the pedestrians are also. And so we're hoping that the proposed improvement will provide more visibility to pedestrians. Okay, here in the front. Hi. Wait, I think, are you gonna? Sorry, I just want to make sure that I capture all your questions. So me repeating it is I'm not doing a very good job on that. So sorry,
okay.
Go ahead.
Thanks. I have two general questions and one location specific.
Okay.
General, a lot of people have expressed concern about travel speed and cars or drivers not knowing how fast they're going. Any thought to radar speed signs where it says speed limit, whatever, your speed, so that drivers get instant feedback on exactly how fast they're going and know to slow down? That could be appropriate for a couple different parts of the corridor.
Mhm.
That's one. Two, has there been any study done of street lighting especially at intersections where new crosswalks are proposed, because some of them are very dark at night, and even with enhanced signage and pavement markings, sometimes it's very hard to see for pedestrians and drivers to see each other. One example is Pliers Mill in Brunswick. That crosswalk is signed, it's marked, and it's pitch black at night. And I've almost gotten hit several times trying to cross Pliers Mill, and I don't want to see that happen on McComas as well. And then third, where it is right now at Torrance Drive, I fully support having crosswalks at Torrance Drive, but I'm concerned about the attention that may not get paid to it. Coming from the east, going westbound at Stephen Knowles, people are going to be coming off of the four-way stop at St. Margaret's and accelerating, so they may not be thinking about another crosswalk, immediately after that. And then going eastbound, you have the crest of the hill, so there's limited sight distance for cars going eastbound, plus parked cars on both sides. Sometimes it's very hard to see the signage. Is there any chance of enhancing those crosswalks with, say, rectangular flashing beacons or something else to really visually emphasize the fact that there is a crosswalk at that location?
So your first question was about, sorry, I totally. Oh, radar speed sign, that's right. So radar speed sign, I will have to talk to our traffic division, who's the holder and keeper of all signing and paper marking. And, I think that's a great idea. So I'll ask them and see if there's something that we can do here. And then the second one was streetlights. Yes. So streetlight was not part of the study, but we can evaluate and see if there's any place that we can add those. And if you have specific intersection or location that you would like us to look at, feel free to send those to us and we'll see what we can do. And then finally here, you raised great points. And so I think our project team will go back and take a look at it and see if there's any way that we can highlight this particular intersection, because I know that it is a major connection for some of the people who are walking to the mall or even passing by to go to the metro station. So thank you for that comment. Who hasn't spoken yet in the back?
Understanding that this plan could change in a myriad of ways, is there a cost estimate for what you guys have drawn up so far, or a budget amount that was allocated for this? Just curious where we are.
Yeah, we do have a budget allocated for implementing it. I haven't seen the cost estimate, Matt. Yes, we do have a budget allocated for it. So, as long as we can keep it within the budgeted, and if we do go over, that's okay. I will try my best to see if we can find more money to implement these things. What is the budget? I don't know on top of my head, but email me. I will get that number to you.
Can we go online?
Okay.
When turning right south from McComas onto George Avenue, the bus stop on the northwest side of the intersection obstructs the motorist view. Can this be addressed? Also, the street on McComas from the pavement, I think they mean on McComas from St. Hobson to St. Paul is badly in need of repaving. So is Pearson Street. What will happen?
Dun, dun, dun. Okay. In terms of the bus stop sign, I'll connect with our transit services and see what they can do to improve that sight distance for people who are turning right at George Avenue. Pavement. I'll reach out to our highway services and see if they can schedule their crew out there to do some repair.
But in general, this project will not be repaving McComas?
No, in general, we're not repaving the whole McComas because we will spend too much money on it, unfortunately. So if there's a specific spot though, you can either email me about those spots or you can contact 311 and they will connect you to the highway services. So every time you contact 311, they will log it and they will have to respond to you. So that's a good tip. Next question over there.
Want to draw attention to the intersection of McComas and Paraguay. during the summer, especially in the afternoons, you'll see hordes and hordes of kids walking down Paraguay from the pool that we are in back home. I do see that you have crosswalks planned, but they're not like race crosswalks, seems like. I would like for you to consider making that race because there's a lot of kids that are walking down that way.
Thank you for your comment.
Unsupervised, yeah.
Thank you for your comment. We'll look into that one. Or stop sign. And the world's your oyster. Okay, go ahead.
Wait a second.
Stop.
I have a question about the intersection with Georgia Avenue. And if you're going south and you want to turn left away from McComas, there's like a protected left turn, at least for a few seconds. But if you go north, turning into McComas, there isn't a protected left turn. And it's really a tricky turn where you're like crossing 3 or 4 lanes of pretty fast traffic while pedestrians have a green light to cross Wyndham Lane. And I really hope that you don't find any fatalities. I would really not like to be responsible for the first one trying to like go home. So if we could just add, like a few seconds for a car or two to go left as there is a left turn going the other way already, that would be really helpful, I think.
Yeah, thank you for your comments on that one. Georgia Avenue is a state road, so we'll forward that comment specifically to SHA so that they can address that. But that's really good. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I've got
Sorry.
online question. Hi, thanks for the meeting. Were you able to consider improving any of the unofficial connections from McComas Avenue up to Wheaton Plaza Mall and the Wheaton Metro Station? Many pedestrians cross McComas and walk through the Stephen Knowles parking lot to get to work. So the proposed raised crosswalk is a great idea.
Yes, so we have coordinated with the mall property manager before. Unfortunately, a huge part of the surrounding area is the property of the mall. So we can't, well, we've tried to ask them if they can improve some of the bike path connection and accessibility and connectivity. But unfortunately, they came back to us and tell us we don't have any plan for that currently. Last time we talked to them. And because this is a public, this is being done by a public agency using tax dollars, we don't have any plans to improve connectivity in a private property and a commercial property. And so we will try to reach out to the mall property manager again and see if there's anything that we can do to ask them to improve the bike path connectivity and safety. Because that is an issue that we've heard multiple times too. So,
Got another online.
Okay.
Compare speed humps to curb extensions. Speed humps slow traffic without forcing bicyclists into the motor vehicle lane.
Is that a question?
Comment.
Oh, it's a comment? Oh, okay. Thank you for your comment. I don't know. Oh, why speed hump versus curb extension? Yeah, so like speed hump is effective every single time a vehicle drives through it, right? And with curb extension, if there's not an opposing vehicle, you still have a relatively wide pavement to work with for someone who's trying to speed through an intersection. But again, like we typically apply curb extension at places where we want to highlight the pedestrian crossing who's waiting there to cross, so that, driver can see the pedestrians waiting, but also pedestrian can see the car coming also, to put them closer to the road without being in the road. So that's, yeah. I think we have some question in the audience.
First, I just want to second the comment about that left turn going north on Georgia onto Wyndham that then transitions into McComas. There's a green arrow at Pliers Mill just south of that for the same reason. And there's a left turn lane from Georgia onto Wyndham, but not a green arrow. And that turn is really tricky and unsafe.
Yeah.
So I would love to take a look at that.
Absolutely.
I love that there's that you guys are proposing a crosswalk between Brunswick and Torrance on McComas, or not crosswalk, excuse me, sidewalk. And I think traffic calming at that intersection of McComas and Brunswick is a good idea, especially with the hill. There's sort of limited sight lines on either end.
Yeah.
And I think people come off that hill really quickly. And if they come over the berm, it's really hard to tell if somebody's right there by those homes. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about why a curb extension there as opposed to some other option for traffic calming.
Yeah, so we'll definitely take a look at it and see if there's any way we can highlight that particular intersection. And whether it be a raised crosswalk or curb extension, we'll see what we can do. Who hasn't spoke yet? Everyone spoke. Okay. Oh, okay.
When you place a curb extension, does that take away the parking in that spot, or is people still allowed to park on the outside of that curb extension? I see we have lots of them, like where he was saying right across from Brunswick and right across from, I don't know, Private Drive and right across from Melvin Grove. They're in front of people's houses.
Yeah, cars would not be allowed to park there. I mean, that's part of the reason why we proposing that, so that it increased sightline of someone who is trying to cross. If there's a car parked there and someone's waiting to cross from here, you can't really see the person that is waiting to cross there. And for a person to see, you have to like lean now and try to look both way. So we try to keep these as minimum as possible to preserve parking. They're mainly at intersection where we feel like we can increase visibility of pedestrians who's waiting to cross, and also forcing vehicle to drive closer towards each other instead of towards where the pedestrian will be. So yeah.
I got it online. What other areas nearby have completed improvements like the raised four-way stop? And is there data available on how it was improved those areas, i.e. surveys, traffic data, et cetera?
I don't have that data on top of my head, but a lot of the race intersection has been implemented at more higher traffic area. But if that person can email me, I'll try to get those data to you. I don't have it on top of my head. Okay.
Thank you. So comment, then question. So I focused on bicycling advocacy for years, like I biked here today. And for as far as the sharrows go, at least as far as I've ever heard, and there's just sort of like a growing refrain in that community of it's better to not do them than do them, because it sort of like checks a box, like we did a bicycling thing here, and then nobody focuses on it ever again. And if instead of some of the curb bump outs, or especially on these westbound lane here in this double curve of McComas of Wyndham up there to here, essentially putting in, bollards like they have on Dennis Avenue, like on the corners that they have in some of those spaces over there on eastern side of Georgia, where essentially it's there to serve the same purpose, but a bicyclist can pass through just as fine. And, a car can barrel through, but a car can also barrel through a curb if they are going to be a lunatic about it. So functionally, traffic calming wise, it does the same thing, which I support. I support traffic calming. I just don't want to be bumped out into traffic and get murdered for it.
Thank you for your comment. I think there's one right here. Here, I'll give you my mic.
Yeah, you call them curb extensions. I call them obstacle courses. Have you driven on Cedar Lane and Dale Drive where the road is compressed so much that you have people crossing over onto the other side? Every time I drive it, I see it. So, and on McComas Avenue, there's not enough room to compress it. There's when you have cars parked and cars trying to get by, there's just not enough space. I think that would be very dangerous to try and compress that road.
Thank you for your comment on that one. Okay.
Angel and team, I just want to thank you guys for all the effort. I think the whole community is really excited about getting something done on McComas. And so I just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, we're not done. But I think Dan has an online comment, a question.
During the last meeting, the question was asked about the signage for local traffic only. Why do we not have an answer to that question yet?
Which meeting?
I'm not sure, but I think the question is, can the road be signed for local traffic only?
Okay. Again, I don't have answer to that questions. Our traffic division will have a better idea of what the answer would be. And I will get that answer to you if you email me. Okay, over there.
Just a question about the school at that intersection. Instead of the curb extensions, have you considered a hawk light? Just to see if because there is a lot of pedestrian activity there. Obviously, there's a school and there's kids. And if there's a hawk light, it might slow down traffic as well further down the line going east.
Yeah, it's something that we can consider. Again, that's something in our traffic division expertise. But in general, I know that they don't like to add them everywhere because it desensitizes driver. If they see it everywhere, they just like, okay, whatever, is another one of those, right? And so we can definitely look into it and see if that's something appropriate for this particular intersection, and highlight the potential high pedestrian volume in this area. Yeah, maybe. Okay. I can repeat this one. Absolutely. If we have money for everything, we can implement everything that we want. But part of why it's expensive is because of the topography. And so when we have a hillside, a lot of time we have to add a small retaining wall in order to fit in a sidewalk on the side. And so, obviously wherever possible, we'll add sidewalk connection. If it is more expensive, then we will have to weigh in like, okay, like what's more important, because we have limited amount of money to do everything. So we just have to weigh which one is more beneficial. Yeah, absolutely. We can provide the data for you. Write it down, Matt. All right. Anyone else? Do we have any more questions? Oh, okay. Would you like to talk? Dan is right there, so you can.
I'm really excited. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out here and Kenmon for generously donating the space. What I would ask, if you could help out when you're done and stack your chairs, if you have trash, there's a recycle container over here and a trash can, because we just want to leave it like we got it. All right, thanks.
Thank you so much. Okay, so that's the conclusion of the presentation. We'll be around until 8:30. And for those of you who are joining online, we'll stay online until 8:30 also. So if you have additional questions or concerns or comments that you would like to make, feel free to make those. But I would really, really appreciate if you fill out the comment form online, because that way I can have everything in the same place instead of try to scour them. But we'll be around, so feel free to ask any of our staff questions. I have some Starburst, so grab some candy. But thank you so much for coming out. Oh, yeah.
Wait.
Okay. Yes. Ooh. How long will the form be available?
So the form will be available until May 19th. obviously, if you think of something else, I don't know, when you're taking summer vacation or whatever, you can still email me. We're not gonna be like, oh, I don't want to hear it. But I would really appreciate it if you can get those to me as soon as possible, so that way we can compile them and go back to the drawing board and see what we can revise and refine to make it better, right? And so again, thank you so much for coming out. We'll be around, so feel free to grab any one of us if you have any questions. So thank you.